All right, great. So let's get started. So I'll invite you guys to come to a position to begin, and I'm going to recommend constructive rest pose. So laying on your back with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. But if you want to do your grounding, centering in some different shape, of course, that's totally fine. We'll all meet in the same place eventually. But for now, let's just come and find that spot. So if you are taking constructive rest with me, just laying on the back, feet a little bit wider than the hips, knees fall together. You can have your hands resting on your belly or open to the sides. And you can close your eyes. And start to take some deeper breaths. So inhaling through the nose and exhaling out the mouth. And the way that I've been doing that lately, which I find really sweet and actually quite helps me sleep at night, is to inhale all the way in through the nose. And then the exhale is just a release of effort. So we inhale all the way in through the nose. And the exhale is just relaxing so that the air just kind of falls out. So there's really an effortless exhale. I'm just taking a moment to notice the ground beneath your body, the parts of your body that are touching the earth. So that might include the soles of your feet, your hips, your back of your head. I'm just kind of imagining that those parts could kind of sink a little deeper into the earth. Just taking a moment to situate yourself in space, this ground, this land beneath you, and also the room that you're in. And the sort of internal experience that you're walking into the room with today. So maybe there's something on your mind, maybe there's been stuff going on, maybe you're having a bit of a hard time kind of connecting to the present moment, maybe that's feeling really easy. So just taking a moment to really check in and feel so that we're meeting ourselves as we are today. I'm just noticing as well if as you're slowing down, as you're becoming still, as you're breathing, if there's anything that your body is trying to tell you about what you need in your practice today. So that could look like energy levels, it could look like parts of the body that are responding to just being in this first shape. So just noticing that. When you're ready, let's begin to invite a little bit of movement. So you're welcome to keep your eyes closed. And depending on the shape you're in, you might want to just kind of wiggle a little bit and shift. If you are laying on the back with me in constructive rest, I'll invite you to wash your knees from side to side. So the feet are nice and wide, about mat's distance apart, and you're just rolling the knees from side to side. You can do that quickly. Sometimes I like to do it quite slowly. So I'm kind of holding The knees off to one side for a moment. And there's just this little bit of a stretch into the psoas, which I think we're going to be working with a little bit today. One of those deep muscles that can get quite tight for a lot of us and can hold stress. So releasing the psoas can be a nice way of calming the system. My arms are out nice and wide right now, kind of in a T shape, and I'm rocking my head away from my knees. Okay, and then when you're ready, we can draw the knees in towards the chest and give ourselves a little hug. So if you're not laying on the back right now, you might want to join us here. You can take your legs up to the sky, arms up as well. Knees can be quite bent. And take a nice little circle for the wrists and the ankles. And then draw the knees in again and place them down on the mat. So this time just in front of the heels is fine. We'll kind of bring the legs in a moment, but I want to do a nice little stretch for the shoulders. So I'm going to take the arms open into a T. And we're going to do something called the washcloth. So for this one, just to start, roll your right shoulder forward. So the shoulder's going to roll off the mat, and you're kind of twisting the arm so that the wrist rolls on the ground. And then you can release that and go the other way. So the shoulder blade rolls down the back, and you're kind of rotating the palm in the opposite direction. And then coming back. Same thing on the second side. So the left shoulder rolls forward, so it kind of comes up away from the ground, and the wrist is rotating. And then we release that, and then we go the other way. So the shoulder blade goes down the back, the shoulder kind of presses into the mat, and the wrist rolls towards where the top of your head is pointing, okay? So you can try that a couple of times, just one side at a time. Sometimes it's a little bit of brain yoga to do this. Otherwise, we'll try and bring that movement together. So as the right shoulder rolls forward off the mat, the left shoulder is going to roll down in the opposite direction. So shoulder blade down the back, and then relax to neutral. Other way, so left shoulder rolls forward, right shoulder rolls in, and then relax. So we're alternating here. Right shoulder rolls forward, that's internal rotation. Left shoulder is externally rotating, and then relax and switch, okay? So we're squeezing side to side, and you might already notice that your head is moving, okay? So naturally the head is gonna roll with this. It's going to move in the direction of the shoulder that's externally rotating. Don't worry too much about that. Don't think too much about it. Just kind of let your head be relaxed, and it will go the correct direction. It's not something that you need to fight it to go the opposite way. So just kind of in a relaxed way. And if that's working for you, we'll add just a little bit more of brain yoga, which is to move the legs. So I'm just going to bring the feet together so the knees touch. I'm going to explore a little bit of a twist. So the knees are moving away from the face. Now, does it really matter if your knees are going the wrong way? No, it doesn't really matter. But it's just that little bit more of a twist along the spine so that the knees and the face are going in opposite directions. Okay. Don't worry about how deep the twist is either. The knees may or may not want to come all the way down to the ground. But I just want you to think of this as a nice little squeeze and release. Squeeze and release. So the washcloth. Just rolling from side to side. And this is so nice for the shoulder girdle, for the back, for the neck. And especially that upper back region that we'll be giving some love to today in particular. Yeah, so I'm just gonna complete this movement looking left. And again, if you don't really remember where you started, don't worry too much about it. Just when that feels complete, come back through center. I'm gonna take the soles of the feet together and knees open wide to take a little rest in Supta Baddha Konasana. Your knees could also be together, feet wide if you prefer. I'm just gonna keep the arms open and take a couple nice deep breaths just to feel that stretch. Okay, and now let's take a little more of a classic twist. So I'm going to roll over to my right side, and I want to have a little inward curve in my lower back and the knees to be together. You might find putting a prop between the knees is really helpful. Then I'm just going to take that left arm up and open. So I'm just taking a nice simple twist here. Now, depending on how you're feeling in your body, again, you may want to prop between your knees. You may need to separate them a little bit, okay? So just make sure that this all feels safe along your lower back and shoulder. If it's your shoulder that's a little unsure, you can always put your hand on your rib or your hip just to take the intensity out of the stretch. Otherwise, just allowing that left shoulder to kind of melt down towards the earth. And again, you can turn to the left with your face if you like, or just keep it up towards the sky. And we'll take some nice deep breaths into the belly here. And just sort of as a gesture, just to think about, you could imagine that you're rolling your top hip, left hip, away from your face and down towards the mat. So that's just going to increase the twist a bit. You really want to keep that inward curve in the lower back there. Nice heavy left shoulder. And we'll gently come out of that so you can roll to your side again. And then all the way over to the other side. So I'm going over to the left now. You can have that same prop between your knees, a little bit of an inward curve in the lower back here, and then allowing the right shoulder to roll open. Two sides are usually different for me in twists. I don't know about you, but sometimes I need to just be in the second side a little differently, so that's okay. Remember, you can put your hand on your rib. You can put more space between your knees, or you could separate them if you need a little bit more of an open twist. I tended to prefer that when I was pregnant, just as an example. So thinking about rolling the top hip down and away if that feels right, and you really want to make sure you have that inward curve in the lower back there. And I'm actually using my left hand just really gently to guide that hip away. You can breathe into the belly. I like this twist in particular because I find the twist moves just up into my upper back a little bit more than when I do different forms of twists. One more nice deep breath here. And then we can come back to the left side and return to laying on the back. So we're just going to do a little bit of our strengthening work for the deep core. So we'll just keep this pretty gentle. And let's start with our pelvic tilts, which I find are so nice just for kind of releasing the back, actually, even as we're waking up the core. So we're going to inhale and expand the belly. Tilt the pelvis forward and just think of really relaxing here as much as you can. Your back will be contracting a bit. And then as you exhale, gather in your pelvic floor first if you can. So that's the musculature around your genitals. And then you're going to gather that up, press the lower back to the mat, and think of kind of hollowing the belly up towards your heart. Relax, puff up the belly, tilt the pelvis forward, pelvic floor soft. Exhale, gather in, press the back to the mat. So I might be talking slower than you're breathing. That's okay. You can go faster than me. I don't need you to hold the breath right now. We're just tilting. So inhaling, pelvis tilts forward. So we're increasing the space underneath the spine, but the sacrum or tailbone stays down. And then we're flattening the back to the mat and gathering in those muscles. Okay, so keep going. Hands could be on the belly if you like, or just beside you is fine. And I want you to notice your head nodding. So again, this is just soft. So we're not actively trying to do anything in particular with the head. We're just going to see if we can let it nod with the movement of the spine. Just noticing that connection between the neck and the lower back, the connection between the jaw and the pelvic floor, which is quite subtle, but that connection is absolutely there. Okay, the next time you engage, I'm going to invite you to keep your engagement, but obviously keep breathing. Okay, so pelvic floor is engaged, core is drawn in, but we're going to soften the back so it's just a nice neutral back. Okay, and then if you want to add on a little, you can lift your shoulder blades up off the mat. That's optional. It just brings in a little bit more of the core muscles. And then we'll lift one leg on the inhale and we'll just put it down on the exhale. Lift the other leg and put it back down. So just starting really nice and gentle here. And the things that we're looking for is keeping the core engaged. So as the legs are moving, the pelvis is staying steady and the musculature of the core is drawing in and up rather than popping forward, okay? We're trying to keep the pelvic floor engaged here. Really good. Okay, so if this is feeling pretty easy, I'll give you an option to go a little bit more. So you can stay there or lift both shins up and bring them together to touch, like you're holding a piece of paper between your knees. And then this time as you inhale, just slide the knees past your hips. And as you exhale, bring them in. Inhale, slide the knees past the hips. Exhale and bring them in. So you probably can't see my feet too well right now, my toes, but my toes are spread. They're quite active. So your toes are actually a really important part of your core. And when the toes are active, it's actually easier to engage the rest of the core. So try to really press the toes and the legs into each other. That'll help. And spread those toes if you can. Okay, little piece to add on here as well. On the exhale, if you're in this second variation with me, you can tilt the tailbone up off the ground slightly. That doesn't have to be a big movement. And you're absolutely getting work in the core, whether you're doing that or not. It's just a little extra juice if you want to add that. I'm going to try for about 5 more. If you need a break, take a break. And if you're still marching, just make sure that you are even on the 2 sides. Last one. And relax. You can again take soles of the feet together, knees open wide, or knees together, feet wide, and just take a moment to feel that. So I love that particular core exercise because it's so subtle, but you can really feel it afterwards. I often feel just like, whoa, okay, there are my core muscles. It really gets to the heart of things, I find. So nice and soft here, nice relaxed. And then we'll stretch that out a bit. So you can gather your knees in towards your chest. Hold on to your left knee and extend your right leg out onto the floor in front of you. Hug the knee a little bit wide towards the armpit as you press forward through that right heel. This is an excellent pose for loving that lower back. And then we'll switch sides, bringing in the right knee, extend the left leg, and hug the knee a bit wide. So I think this one took me a while to really get. The first, I mean, I was quite young when I started doing yoga, but I didn't really understand what was supposed to be happening here. But now that I'm a little more sensitive to what's going on in my body, there's a lot happening here, specifically the lengthening of the psoas. So for me, what really works is straightening that left leg, pressing forward through the heel as I hug the knee wide and breathing into my belly. So it's almost a stretch in the belly. Not a really obvious stretch, but it's a beautiful one. So good. Okay, let's release the feet. So one at a time to the earth in front of you. And then grab a prop. So I'm going to take a brick on its second to highest height. You could also use a bolster. You could use a cushion or a lower prop. So it's just anything that you can kind of elevate your hips with. So I'm going to lift up my bum and place that brick underneath the sacrum. So the sacrum is the bony ridge at the back of the pelvis at the top. So it should feel pretty secure right on the bone. It's not in the vertebrae of the lower back, and it's not kind of in the flesh of the bum where it's quite unstable. So it should actually feel pretty supported there. Bum is lifted. My feet are a little bit wider than my hips, and I can either keep them there or I can let the knees fall together. And I'm just going to let my hands rest on my belly. So this is called supported bridge, but we're not really thinking so much about a back bend. It's more of an inversion. And the intention here is to really relax the belly. So I just want to take some time to breathe, okay? If there's any pain here, go lower. You could even just bring your bum all the way down to the ground if this isn't working for you. There should be no pain in your lower back, okay? Again, this one is not so obvious. It's not going to be like a really major stretch in some of the external muscles. If anything, sometimes it feels almost like a bit queasy, in which case you know you're getting a little release into your psoas, okay? So just nice and soft, breathing as deeply as you can. Let that belly relax. I'm just noticing how this is feeling for you, sort of in terms of your mood or your thoughts. Even just if this feels kind of pleasurable or boring. Just noticing. Beautiful. Okay, when you're ready, let's come out of that. So gently engage the bum, lift up your hips, and slide that prop out from underneath you. And you might want to hug the knees in, you might want to extend the legs out, just taking a moment to kind of receive that shape. Beautiful. Nice. Okay. Let's roll over to one side. So we're going to do a little bit more of our strengthening work here. As most of you know, I like to stay on the pretty close to the floor for a lot of this class as we're continuing to do. So I'm laying on my right side, a little natural curve in the lower back. I'm supporting my head and my arm, but I could also have it down or on a prop. And then the knees are not straight forward. They're slightly pointed down, right together. Toes are flared. We're going to open the knees on the inhale like a clamshell. But then we're going to lift the foot as well, bring the knees together, and then the feet together. So it's a bit of a funny clamshell, okay? So you can sort of inhale to initiate the movement, but don't worry too much about the breath. This is a little bit of an awkward one I find to do with the breath. And I just want you to be feeling your outer hip a little bit. Okay, so just a little bit of that work kind of in that outer hip zone. And the reason we're doing that is because it's really supportive for lower back health, and it actually really helps with pelvic floor as well. Yeah, we'll just do a little bit of this today. We won't overdo the Jane Fonda stuff. And let's just take about 2 more. Nice. And then you can take a soft fist and just gently pat out the outer hip. And let's just do that on the second side right away. So I'm going to flip over. You can certainly roll. Now that you know what we're doing, you don't necessarily have to see. So feet are flared, knees are together. Try to keep the sacrum straight up and down. We're opening the knees, lifting the foot, knees together, feet together. So right now I have my right hand on my sacrum, and I just kind of want to feel that the hips aren't wobbling forward and back. They're just staying nice and steady in space. Just about 3 more. Last one. Ah, and that's about all we need to do for that today. So you can take that soft fist and just pad out that outer hip a little bit. We will do a bit more hip release. Okay. So let's come to hands and knees from here. So you're already on one side, so you can just kind of flip yourself onto your hands and your knees. Toes tucked or not, fingers spread or fists. Let's take cat and cow. So inhaling into a little bit of back bend and exhaling to round. And you can close your eyes and just really take your time with this. This is one of my favorite little movements. This is definitely like, if I only have time to do one thing, I'll do this. I do this with the baby a lot. It's just so simple, and you can add on as well. So, circles might feel really good, side to side motion, waving the hips from side to side, and just noticing we've been on the floor, right, so far, but we've actually done a lot of subtle work. So just noticing how it's kind of landing, the shoulders, the back, hips. And we'll take another little release for the shoulders here as well. So when you're ready, just coming back to neutral, go ahead and open your right arm up to the right, any amount, and then thread the arm under. So you're coming onto the outer shoulder and the temple, and then I'll just spin so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. And then the left fingertips will come off the mat, press them down and forward as you push the back of the right hand into the mat. So you can kind of lean your weight back, getting that nice little stretch behind your shoulder blade. And just breathing into the back. I love this one. This is one of my faves. You can stay here or wrap your left arm around your lower back. So it's a little bit of a different shoulder stretch. And I personally prefer usually to stay in the first variation. But that is up to you. We all have different bodies. Okay, let's gently release the left palm beside the face. Inhale, open the right arm back to where we started. Place the palm down. Left arm opens. We'll do that on the second side. Again, the two sides might be a bit different. Threading that left arm under, come to the temple. Right fingertips off the mat, and you're pushing the floor forward. Back of the left hand presses down, and you're just kind of leaning your weight into the upper back. So you get that nice stretch between the shoulder blade and the spine that, like, who doesn't have knots there? And sometimes it's kind of hard to get into that space. So I really love this one for that. Maybe you'd like to add that little internal rotation, reaching the right arm up and wrapping it around the lower back. And maybe you're feeling like, you know what, I prefer this first variation, which I do. Nice. And then place the right palm beside your face. Next inhale, sweep that left arm open to the sky once again. Return to your hands and your knees, and you can take the cat and cow again. And then we'll make our way down onto our belly. So you can come down kind of any way that works for you. I'm just kind of on my knees. And let's take a couple of little prone back bends here, which are so nice for the lower back, and you can get a little upper back in there as well. So let's start with the cactus shape with the arms. So nice and simple. Engage the tops of the feet, knees lifting, pubic bone pressing down. On an inhale, lift up. So you're pressing into your hands, elbows lift, and then exhale and lower. And just going as slow as you want to go. So these poses are related to, or they're sometimes called cobras. And I actually really like the image of a cobra the snake, which has that hood. So it's not that we're trying to kind of jam the chin up to the sky, but rather we're trying to kind of widen the upper back as we lift. So kind of imagine that animal if you can as you're doing this, and just notice if that changes your experience of the shape at all. It's kind of a long back of the neck. Let's do that one more time. And then rest. You can take a cheek to the mat or your forehead, stacked palms or arms beside you, whatever works for you is fine. And take a couple deep breaths. And then we'll set up once again. So place the feet down on the mat. This time we'll take fingertips. So we'll just add the shoulders in a little bit more. Pubic bone connected, glutes are engaged. Lift the chest up and we can add a little twist. So you can simply look left or you can dip your right shoulder down. Come up through center, look right, and then you can dip down your left shoulder. Oh yeah, had a little pop there. Up through center, and we'll just do that one more time each side. So a little bit of a twist. Try to keep the pelvis really steady, so it's just the upper back that's moving. Nice. And then up through center and release. You can take your opposite cheek to the mat or forehead and just take a moment to rest. Okay, from here, bend your left leg. Reach back with your left hand and hold on to the foot. Hug your heel in towards your bum. Squeeze your bum, press your pubic bone down, and activate the right leg a lot. So I'm hoping that you're feeling a nice, juicy stretch into your quadricep. If this isn't working for you laying on the belly, you can do it laying on the side too. I find this one is quite effective and pretty good at not getting into the knee because you can't really cheat where your knee is very easily in this shape. Okay, and then we'll switch sides. So release that left leg, reach back for the right foot. So it's hugging the heel in, yes, but really for me, the key of this one is squeezing the bum and trying to press the pubic bone down into the earth. And I'm just active with my foot. So my foot is kind of pressing into my hand a bit. Beautiful. And then we'll gently release that and we'll make our way into child's pose. So you can press into your hands and stretch back, just giving a nice little release to the lower back. Maybe you want to do that just totally still. Maybe you want to sway a little from side to side. Lovely. Okay, so from here, I'll invite you to come back to hands and knees. You can take your cat and cow here if you like, or if you're comfortable with downward dog, we can take one of those. So you can walk your hands a little bit forward, a little bit wide, tucking the toes under, pressing the hips up, and you can pedal the heels out here. So I want you to kind of think about this, whatever it is that you're doing, as a bit of a massage. So it's nice and soft, gentle, intuitive movement. And again, I'm kind of swaying my hips from side to side. There's a bit of space in my elbows so that my shoulders are deep down into their sockets. They're not up around my ears. Okay, and then we're going to get the right foot forward. So you can do that from your knees and step forward. If you want, you can do a three-legged dog as a transition. So the right leg can go up towards the sky, any amount. And then you can step that foot through. So I'm going to take a low lunge myself. You could put a block underneath the knee if it's sensitive. High lunge works here too if low lunge isn't your friend. I'm also grabbing my strap. You don't necessarily need one, but if you have a strap, you can feel free to grab it. So we're in a low lunge, and I just want to draw my tailbone down and press my hips forward a bit, but I'm keeping my knee over my ankle. And if I don't have a strap, I'm just going to interlace my fingers. If I do, I'm going to take it behind me with the palms facing forward. Pretty wide for me right now. I've got them a bit wider than my shoulders. So hips are squaring, pressing the hips forward, and then I'm just going to pull the strap apart and lift my chest towards the sky. So it's not a big dramatic movement, but what I want to feel here is across the collarbones. So I'm not trying to bend backwards like crazy. It's almost like I'm trying to push the strap down and lift the sternum towards the sky. Awesome. Let's take one more inhale. Oh yeah, that's what I need today, I think. And then we're going to release that. And I'm just going to actually gather up my other props because I might need them, including my bolster and my bricks. So I'm just going to put my hands on my bricks. I'm going to bring my hips forward and walk the right foot out a little more to the right. So the toes turn out on a bit of an angle, and I'm working into a lizard shape. So this is for the hips. I find once I roll my hips forward, my knee is quite happy, but feel free to put a prop underneath it if you need to. You can also lift the knee right up. That's going to be a little more fiery, but you won't have the pressure on the knee, of course. Okay, option one here, you can lift up your toes and widen the knee. So that's awkward dragon, is that what it's called? Awkward pigeon, actually, I think it's called, because the other alternative is pigeon. So you can either stay there or you can walk your right foot across your mat. And I'm just going to tuck my bolster right underneath my thighs. That's optional, of course. I'm going to try to get my shin down, and then I can actually settle. Yeah. And if pigeon doesn't work for you, the lizard or the awkward pigeon, it's a little bit more like you're kind of working a little bit more, but it tends to be a bit more comfortable for the knees for some people. So just check that out. And then get nice and long through the sides of your waist. And any of these variations, whichever one's working for you, you can fold down to some degree, maybe on your blocks or on your elbows. And we're just looking for some kind of opening in the hip region. Outer hip, I'm hoping, because we did work that a little bit earlier. But you might feel it in the inner thigh too. Keep your foot active. I don't want you to be feeling this in your knee at all, okay? So if you're feeling it in your knee, try one of the other variations or just come right out. Nice deep breaths. Take one more deep breath. Beautiful. And then we'll gently rise up. So kind of depends on which shape you're in. In pigeon here, I'm going to actually come out by just swinging my back leg around to the front. I find especially using the bolster that works best for me. If you're coming out of one of the other variations, just get your foot down, kind of inch it back, and you can make your way back through your hands and your knees. So if you're seated here with me, you might want to just give your legs a little shake. And then we're going to swing the legs around behind us, and we'll do that sequence on the second side. So coming through hands and knees or downward dog, just props kind of handy. And if you're in downward dog, you can add a little movement here. You can bend one knee at a time. Some of you might even want some variation of a vinyasa, which you're more than welcome to take if you want. If you don't know what vinyasa is, you probably don't want one. So don't worry about it. And then we'll step the left foot forward. So you might just step. You could do the three-legged dog if you want as a transition, just to try. You have a little more energy today. And then again, I'm taking low lunge. You could do high. And feel free to pad your knee if you need to. I like to keep my toes tucked under because I can kind of press into them a little bit to get my hips forward. Knee is still over the ankle. And I'm using the strap. Dowel would work well here too, belt, scarf, or you could just interlace fingers. So I'm not trying to go down super far because as soon as I do that, I lose my lower back, right? So I actually want to keep my tailbone a little tucked under. But I want to pull the strap apart and lift the chest. So it's not a really deep lunge, but I'm hoping that you are feeling a bit of that psoas hip flexor quad kind of space. Nice, everybody. And then we'll gently release that. Grab the blocks if they're handy for you. You might not need them. And just coming a little more forward. So I find I need to inch my foot a bit farther forward. I'm pretty flexible in my hips. They do come down a fair amount. So I'm just walking the foot out and slightly forward and then turning the toes off on a little bit of an angle. So kind of pointing towards the top left corner of the room. And just noticing that, I'm definitely feeling my inner thigh for this one. My feet are really active. So when the toes are active, that helps to protect the knee. Your back knee could be down or up. It's just going to be a different experience. Yeah, and then when you're ready, we'll get that outer hip a little bit more. So that might mean angling so that the inner arch of the foot comes off the mat. Try to keep your foot, your ankle rather, really straight. So your ankle is like it was in a ski boot, like it can't move. It's just your hip that opens there. And if you want to come into pigeon, if that works for you, we can do that. So you might slide a prop like a bolster under one or both hips, walk your foot across, try to get the shin bone down, and then there's a bit of shifting you might need to do. So most of us coming forward a little bit, you could shift back a little bit. It's just finding that place where you feel the opening doesn't hurt or it doesn't feel too intense. We can stay up here just nice and long. There's that psoas again. Or you can fold down onto your elbows. I'm just noticing what you're feeling here. So any kind of sensation around the hip generally is kind of what we're looking for. Not really sensation in the knee. Keep your foot nice and active. Feel free to try a different variation if this one's not for you. Nice deep breaths. Pigeon can be kind of intense energetically. It can be a bit of an interesting shape to be in terms of mood or energy. So just notice if that's happening for you, if thoughts or emotions are arising. Sometimes we forget about it, but even just irritation or impatience, those are emotions too. So try to just be with those if you can. Take one more deep breath. Beautiful. And then we'll rise up. And again, kind of depends on the shape you're in. If you're in pigeon with me, you might find just sitting over onto that left hip is really nice. Bringing that back leg around to the front. You can also press back into your downward dog if that works better for you, maybe pedaling the heels out. And I'm just shaking my legs out. We're going to meet in a seat. So I'm just going to have a seat on my low brown block here. So folded towel, blanket, little prop, just something to put your bum on. It makes it a little bit easier. And I'm just in a simple cross-legged position, just comfortable. because we know we need to release that neck, right? Let's reach our arms up to the sky once you get here. On an inhale, just clearing through your breath. Exhaling, hands come down along the midline. This is really nice for regulating your mood as well. Let's do 2 more like that. This is nice, especially if you're in a bit of a low mood, like depressed. It can feel really good to open the chest and armpits with breath. 1 more. Nice. And then fingertips beside you. Take a simple side bend. So I'll mirror you. So you can reach your left arm up to the sky, walk your right hand away, ground down that left sit bone as you reach up and side stretch. So you kind of want to draw the ribs back a little bit and really ground that sit bone down. Now, a variation I quite like is holding the skull with the top hand and then just turning the heart gently towards the sky. So we get a little more armpit stretch there. So there's a gentle engagement through the core here, but it's very mild and the breath can kind of move into the belly. Okay, let's gently release that. We'll come to the second side. So release the fingertips down. Right arm reaches up. We're just walking the left fingertips away. Grounding the sit bone, drawing the ribs back a little bit, turning up to the sky. And if it worked for you on the first side, try holding your head. And I like that because you can actually relax the neck and you get that nice stretch into the armpit as well. Beautiful. And then we'll gently release that, fingertips to the mat. Okay. And now from here, we're just nice and straight with the spine, but we're going to lift up that left hand again. Turn the palm to face up for now. Draw the shoulders onto the back, chin tucks in slightly, and then bring the right ear towards the right shoulder. And now we can play a little with what the hand is doing. So rotating the palm down, I'm going to have a different experience. And then I'm rotating it back now. So remember that washcloth we did earlier, you can experiment with internal and external rotation of the arm. So now I'm turning the palm up and back, so that's external rotation, and just noticing how that feels different in the neck. I find when the palm's up, I like to lift my chin a little. Okay, and then bring the head back, gently release the fingertips down, and just take a moment to feel that. And then the right hand lifts, just palm forward or so for now. Tuck the chin in and gently bring the left ear to the left shoulder, and then we can explore that rotation of the shoulder a bit. So palm up and slightly back, that's external rotation. Palm down, and then back, that's internal rotation. So the shoulder's kind of rolling forward. And just moving it around a little bit. So you're kind of exploring for you, where is that spot where your body says, that feels good. And then gently back through center and just take a moment to feel that. You can keep your fingertips here beside you or just in your lap is fine as well, whatever feels most comfortable. And then let your chin drop forward. And then slowly roll it from side to side. So just nice and easy, nice and lazy. You can allow the chin to tip up a little bit, but we're not crunching the back of the neck. We're just doing semicircles. And I want you to go slow enough that it feels like a little massage. So you can close your eyes and just really enjoy this. So That feel-good theme that we work with in this class is really about listening to the body and noticing what the body is responding to. So feeling good isn't always the same thing as feeling comfortable, right? Because sometimes comfortable is not feeling anything at all. And so when we're exploring what feels good, we want to think about, where is my body saying yes? Even if it's like, ooh, that's uncomfortable, but I can tell that that's a place that wants to be stretched in my body. Right? So you can be still, you can pause in a certain place, or just keep moving. We'll take a few more breaths. And eventually coming through, chin down, and then roll it up. And we can roll the shoulders a couple times. And we can turn the head side to side. And then let's take the opposite shin in front. And we'll do a little seated cat and cow. So if your cushion that you're sitting on annoys you, which it usually does for me in this one, you can just set it to the side. Okay. So we're just holding the knees and we're going to rock forward, hugging the shoulders together on the back. And then rock back, allowing the shoulders to come forward. Just going at your pace, sort of rinsing out all of that work that we've done along the spine today. Beautiful. And then let's close with a back bend. If you have a particular pose in mind that you want to close with, please feel free to take that. I'm just going to give you this offering, might feel really nice. So if you have a bolster, that's helpful. If you don't, you can use a rolled blanket, towel, cushion. You can do it with a brick, but it's nicer to do it with something soft and wide. And then you'll probably need a second prop. I'm just going to use my brown cushion here. And then these bricks can be used underneath my legs. So I'm going to lay back. And I want to find a place where, so depending on your spine, your bum might be quite far from the bolster. But you want to find a place where you can lay back on the bolster, but your shoulders actually fall kind of to the top. So I'm just going to shift back a little bit. And my head is resting on this cushion here. I like soles of the feet together, knees open wide here, and I'm just resting my knees on the bricks. You don't need that. You could have Shavasana legs if you prefer. But if you are taking the shape, I'd love for you to have your arms open because part of the point is that opening into the chest, allowing the shoulders to kind of soften back. And there's this nice release into the solar plexus here as well. A nice alternative to this one, if you have a bolster but you're finding that one doesn't work for you, is to just take the bolster along the spine instead. Most people really like that one and just lay back. It's a little bit simpler, but it depends on the body. Some people really love this one. For me, some days I love it, some days I don't. Usually I do love it though. Today's some of those days. We're just going to take some nice deep breaths, letting the shoulders drop, letting the belly be soft. And you're welcome to stay right here in this shape through your Shavasana if you like, or we'll adjust into a Shavasana. So if you're coming out of this shape, I recommend just rolling to the side. That's sort of the easiest way that I've found to get out of this particular pose. and then adjust your props as you like. So you may want your bolster under your thighs. You may want to just lay flat with nothing. You may want to lay on your side, legs up the wall. And if you have extra props that you want to use to cover your eyes or put layers on or something like that, feel free to do that so that you can rest. And taking a moment to notice how you're feeling in your body right now. And also your mood, your energy, the texture of your thoughts. When you're ready to, you can begin to deepen your breath and bring some small movements into your fingers and toes. Maybe rock your head. You could stretch your arms up over your head. And draw in your knees. And roll over to one side. And make your way up to a comfortable seat. You could have your hands together at your heart or over top, or in any shape that feels right for you today. And then gently bow your mind to your hands, just taking a moment to honor and acknowledge the work that it took for you to show up to your practice today. To honor and acknowledge the long and complex lineage that is with us when we practice our yoga. To honor and acknowledge the land that we practice on, wherever that may be in the world. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today.